This is the final lesson of Mod 9, Unit 1, and we're going to talk about the powers of I. This is a little bit unusual compared to what happens with real numbers when you raise them to higher and higher powers. So let's do a little exploration, and then I will show you how to actually do things like evaluate what is I to the 15th power, what is I to the 38th power, and so on. We know that I to the first power is I. We know that I to the second power is -1. Now I to the third power, what are we going to do with that? We would have to think about that I to the third power could be formed by multiplying these two. If you took I to the first times I to the second, the product rule says you add the exponents, that's I to the third. Well, I to the first is I to the second is -1. I'm going to reverse that and call it -I. I to the fourth power, I have to think of a way to create it using the product rule. I think I will do I squared times I squared. That's -1 times -1, which is 1. Let's look at I to the fifth. I to the fifth, my very favorite now is going to be I to the fourth because it's equal to 1, which is the identity. So this is I to the fourth times 1 additional I. So it is 1 times I, which is I. I to the sixth, I'm going to call it I to the fourth times I to the second. Remember that when you multiply two bases with powers that you add the exponents. I to the fourth is 1. I to the second is -1. So that's equal to -1. I to the seventh, I'm going to call it I to the fourth times I to the third. I to the fourth is 1. I to the third is -I. So that's -I. I to the eighth could be called I to the fourth times I to the fourth, which is 1 times 1, which is 1. Now I hope you noticed that it went I, -1, -I, 1, I, -1, -I, 1, and it will continue this pattern. Every 4 patterns, every 4 powers, it starts the pattern over, which means every time it hits an I to the fourth, it starts back over. So something you could do is some elaborate counting. Let's take a look. The first one says, what is I to the 24th? I to the 24th. Well, you could do this. Well, I'll put it here. Remember that I to the first is I to the second is -1, I to the third is -I, and I to the fourth is 1. Although I am not going to recommend this, let me just show you. You could say, oh, I need to get I to the 24th. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. It's equal to 1. That would get rather tedious if you did that over and over. So let's look at another way to handle it. I to the 13th. You could do this. And I'll do it this one time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's see another way to do it. If you take 13, and if every time you cycle through 1, 2, 3, 4, you start over, let's see how many 4s are in there. Well, there are 3. That's 12 with 1 left over. That means you will cycle through this 3 times and you'll land on I to the first. And I to the first is I. Let's look at I to the 19th. Divide 4 into 19. It's going to go 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. 3. We really don't, this is unusual, but we really don't care about this. The quotient just says how many times you cycled through this pattern. What you care about is the leftover, the remainder. So you will go through this 4 times, and then you will land 1, 2, 3. So I to the 19th is negative I. Let's do one more. Let's suppose I said, what's I to the 217th power? Okay, well, I sure don't want to go cycling through that, so I will divide it by 4. If I want to, I could even use my calculator. 217 divided by 4, and I get 54, and don't write down the decimal. Just write down the 54. Now multiply 54 times 4. And you get 216. And subtract for 1. I to the 217th is equal to I to the first, which is I. It is the remainder, and the remainder will be, if it's 0, then you've got the answer is 1. If it's 1, the answer is I. If it's 2, the answer is negative 1. If the answer is 3, it's negative I. And if the answer is, well, it can't be 4 because you can't have a remainder of 4. So whatever the remainder is, that's the power, and you should commit to memory or be able to recreate this list. Okay? So you can count if you want to, but you wouldn't want to count if it's 217. Do your powers of I. Then I recommend that you look at the review over Mod 9 Unit 1 to prepare for your test.